You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, what is good, everybody? Take two here on the Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill getting you hyped for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Rosie, how are you, buddy?
Just a little hiccup right before the playoffs, not unlike the Maple Leafs team themselves. I'm Jack, man. How about you?
It's very Leafs-like that we would start the show that way, and hopefully the Leafs don't start. You got to start on time, right? I think that's the message that we're trying to hammer through. That was all an act. You got to start on time.
That was how we were portraying it. Yeah. Hey, it's a buffer day today. I'd like to skip this day in general and get to tomorrow, not just for the Leafs, but for the whole league, man. It is seems extra exciting this year. I don't know why, but the league's in a good spot, man. Lots of wicked playoff matchups, and I am just like, I can't wait to drop the puck on this Leafs Boston game.
Very exciting. I think what we were trying to mention off the top there before the technical difficulties is that we're going to do a pregame show tomorrow. We're going to do a 30-minute pregame show leading up to game one of the first round between the Leafs and the Bruins. So make a note of it. Mark it in your calendars, 7 Eastern time. So I guess like an hour, maybe an hour and 10 before puck drop. Rosie and I are going to get together for like a 30-minute hit. Just gauge the feel. So mark it down. Make sure you're there for that. It's going to be a lot of fun to get your thoughts just before the game, Rosie.
Yeah, bring your playoff beers. I'm going to have one. What a day. I'm going to be excited, man. Sick time of year. Can't wait. Let's get today kind of over with. I'm sure the players probably feel the same way. But looking around the league, I'm just thinking about how everybody's feeling right now. And I don't know, the Oilers had kind of a weird one last night, resting their entire crew against the full-fledged Colorado Avalanche, Skinner got ripped. That makes me think about the Leafs, like how they kind of limped into the playoffs. At the end of the day, it is what it is, but we will see who's ready to go in a short amount of time.
It really is put up or shut up time. It's funny. I was putting together my bracket for NHL.com before we started this show, and it's just so it's tough to handicap any of these series. Like, I even look at the Vancouver series. I'm like, hey, I could see Nashville winning that series. Any series, you can say one way or another that something can happen. Even Vegas facing Dallas, like, it's just going to be absolute chaos. It feels a lot like March Madness. I often goof at the fact that they call it a bracket in the NHL, but this year it really feels that way, where you can make a legitimate case. Maybe there are 16 playoff teams. You can make a legitimate case like 13 or 12 of them can win the Stanley Cup. It's crazy, and it's going to be a lot of fun to cover it.
It is. It's going to be a lot of action, and day one tomorrow night, you're going to have your clicker in hand all the time, swapping around through intermissions and whatnot. Obviously, I'll be pretty glued to the Leafs Bruins game, but keeping tabs on everything else that's going out there. I think we're in store for a lot of shock, a lot of incredible games, a lot of overtime, a lot of 6 and 7 game series. It's going to be wicked, man.
Well, just in time for the 2024 playoffs, we're absolutely jacked here to welcome Bet365 to the Leafs Morning Take family. Download the app, open an account, and use promo code TLN Bonus. That's TLN Bonus, all in uppercase, and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. I can't wait for this either. It's just an exciting time here to be Leafs Morning Take, man.
I know Bet365 is wicked, man. Get the app. It's easy to navigate and cruise around on. They have all these bet boosts and stuff where it's like you can take like something you feel really good about and they'll just juice the number for you and you jump all over it. I hit those all the time. And they've got like, jack your payout by 30%, just all kinds of weird little things. And I'm like, man, this is the place to be. So I'm excited to have them on board.
Also excited for the Daily Faceoff Playoff Parlay Challenge, which we just unveiled today, by the way. Each game day, answer 4 questions, pick the winning team, guess if points will be over or under, predict the first goal, and choose the highest scoring period. Gift cards will be up for grabs for daily winners, and each round champion will pocket some hard-earned cash. Play today at games.dailyfaceoff.com. So we got that coming up, man. I tell you, we've got lots. We got the Bleed Blue playoff t-shirt coming out and has been released already. Make sure to pick that up. Nation Gear is ready to gear you up for the Toronto Maple Leafs playoff run. Rep your favorite team as they battle for the cup. Shop the exclusive Bleed Blue playoff tee and more at nationgear.ca. Are we ready to roll here, Rosie?
Well, I hope so. I'll check the mail today, but that thing better have been sent out a while ago. Nation Network's got to get that on my doorstep for the game tomorrow night. I'm sure it'll be here, but I'll be rocking it for sure. It's probably not too late to get yours. I think it might be a deep playoff run this year, so lots of time.
Never know. Famous last words in Leafs Nation, of course. Zach Phillips coming up. Of course, the LeafsNation After Dark after Game 1 against the Boston Bruins on Saturday night. But Zach Phillips is going to come up in about 20 minutes from now. We're going to get his final thoughts. We're going to have his preview tomorrow on our YouTube page as well. So looking forward to that. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcasts. Visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest on all things Toronto Maple Leafs. We got something special for you, by the way, to wrap up the show as well. So stay tuned for that. A bit later on, the opening segment is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ, Friday, April 26th, the grand opening deep in the heart of King Street West in downtown Toronto. Greta Bar will act as your go-to spot for all the hockey playoffs and baseball coverage you could handle, whether you're pre-gaming, looking to watch the big game, post-gaming, or just looking to dust your friends off at some arcade games. Greta Bar YYZ will have you covered with delicious eats and thirst-quenching drinks. Go big. Go to Greta Bar YYZ. We got to get you down there to Greta Bar, don't we?
I keep forgetting about that commercial. I was going to ask you, where are you watching the game tomorrow night, man? That place is going to be buzzing.
It's not yet because it's not opening until April 26th. So,
right.
I'll be at Greta Bar, I think, for Game 3. I think Game 4. The schedule was released last night at like 1 a.m. Eastern time. I was probably the only buffoon watching hockey at that time. I'm the only idiot, I can tell you, that bet on Chicago and LA to hit 8.5 in the under. And then LA tied it and then won it in OT. And I looked like an absolute joke. But I thought LA was setting themselves up to play Dallas. I guess not. They were doing the Leafs until they figured out, oh, we're playing Chicago. This team is trash. Let's win this game. But I digress. So yeah, game 3, I think that the schedule is weird. It goes Saturday, Monday, Wednesday for game 3 back in Toronto, then Saturday for game 4. So I'll be at Greta Bar for game 4.
Love that. What about in between before they open? They're putting the final touches on that place, I am sure. Are you going to be at home watching it, or are you going to be focused, or are you going to be out in the buzz?
So I don't know how you handle playoff games, and those of you in the chat, I'd love for you guys to chime in. I can't watch games with people, like especially the games once they get later on in a series, and it's weird because it's been the way I've been watching Leafs hockey since I was like 15 years old. I would go in the basement, I put the game on like really really loud, and I wouldn't watch the game with anybody. But I have changed my way that I approach games. Like last year's playoffs, I thought was a lot of fun. I watched with groups of people, got really really drunk. It was a lot of fun. But I think just my mentality has changed where it's like, if it happens, that's great. I've conditioned myself for defeat and disappointment. And that's what you have to do in Leafs Nation, I think.
Wow. Wow.
It's a lot
Wow.
to uncover, isn't it?
Why? No, I know what you mean. I would never go to a bar where like the sound's not on and people are dicking
Yeah.
around and only half the people are paying attention to the game. I'd go somewhere where there's a big screen, you sit down and look at it, and the volume's blasting and everyone's there to watch the game. Other than that, I'll be in my basement tomorrow night. Might have a person or two over. We'll see someone who's dialed into the same things as I am, and yeah, I'll be waiting good. A little pregame show too, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Again, if you're just tuning in, we are doing a pregame stream coming up at 7 Eastern time. So make a note of that here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button at the Leafs Nation 401. So it's the Leafs and the Bruins, man. We've been talking about this, obviously, for the last 48 hours or so. The season series speaks for itself. All Boston. But as you all know, no momentum from the regular season to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, just ask the Colorado Avalanche. That series is going to be very, very intriguing because Winnipeg spanked their ass in the regular season. I don't think the Avalanche care. I brought this number to you last night. The Leafs 2-6 all time in game ones, because all I can remember was the Leafs coming out flat in game one. So I had to do the history. I had to check my notes, man. And they've won 2 of those, but history tells us it's going to be a chaotic game one way or another, whether the Leafs win or lose. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, they don't have the best record. I think they have some tension in their mentality, just being what they are, who they are, where they are, and what's happened in the past. But I am looking forward to seeing the first, 4 or 5 shifts, the first 5 minutes of the first period tomorrow night. Who's got the jam? Who's got the piss and vinegar? Who's playing with confidence and who's kind of feeling things out? I would hope that Keefe is going to have these guys chomping at the bit. Every one of them wants to start the game. Get it out there, get it deep, crash and bang a little bit, get some shots on net, get some whistles in the O zone, get a little jam going is what my MO would be out there. And I hope they get off to a good start because it can dictate a whole game there, how you start that thing.
Didn't have you yesterday, so curious to get your thoughts on everything that transpired in Tampa. Matthews ending with 69. I know a lot of people in the chat yesterday were calling me negative for ripping the Leafs apart, but it was more so about Nylander and the coach and accountability. How it's like, you know what? Willie just took the rest of the regular season off. It's all great, but I'm curious to get your opinion on all that stuff.
Well, it follows your MO of the regular season doesn't matter, so you should be on board with that. You would think. But
See, that wasn't the point I was making on the show yesterday. It's like, if you set this standard that my star player who makes 11 and a half sheets a year is going to be like, you know what? I'm going to take some time off because I don't give a shit. Where guys like Bobby McMahon, Nick Robertson, Mark Giordano are fucking giving it their all, trying to scrap people, like just playing, nose to the wall. And this guy, because he's a star player, feels entitled to be like, you know what? I'm going to take some time off, get ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and make believe I'm in Mexico right now. That was my issue, okay?
No, and I hear you. I don't like the way they finished the regular season. I think Willie Nylander, as good as he is and can be, one of his knocks is he shuts it down sometimes and plays lackadaisically. And I think there's a clip pulling up where he just kind of floats by the puck. I don't think some people understood that it was a high stick. He didn't want to touch it, and it's a bad look. But
yeah.
You know what? Keefe's comments at the end, he's saying, I don't even remember what the scores were in some of these games, and I'm not worried about Willie at all. I think he just kind of wants to play in the playoffs. fine. I mean, it's not the way I would go about it, but I'm going to hold my criticism and judgment because they know best. They're in the locker room. It's their team. It means more to them than anybody. So if that's the way you want to go about it, fine. But you better be fucking ready to go tomorrow night. Like, I don't like the idea of, we'll dick around and I wasn't even paying attention. What do you mean? Oh, we lost it. I can't remember what's going on. Hey, not the way I would do it. Like I said, but it's the way they did it. So as long as you can flip that switch and be ready to rock and roll. And if you were just kind of like, saving your energy and biding your time, hey, fine. But you better be ready to go tomorrow night, because if you come out flat and you shit the bed the first 2 games and you put yourself way behind the 8 ball, heads are going to roll. And you will look back at the end of the season saying, what were you doing? So again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not mad. I'm not being negative. I'm just saying, if that's the way you want to do it, fine. Make sure you're ready to flip that switch and be ready to rock and roll as soon as that puck drops. I expect Willie Nylander to be licking his chops, to be unloading the tank every single shift in order to make sure that there's no, scrutiny on him for the way he went about his business the last couple of weeks.
Do you think Willie's pulling a tantrum from being demoted to the third line? I don't know if I subscribe to that theory, but I can tell you we've seen this play before by Sheldon Keefe, directly calling out Nylander. Like, imagine he called out Marner or somebody else. Like, it just wouldn't go over as well. I think he knows he can push that button with Nylander. And I said this on yesterday's show, would not be shocked at all if Willie Nylander is the best player on the ice for game one on Saturday night. But some of the quotes from Keefe this year specifically have been outrageous. Did you catch the one on Thursday where he legitimately said he was watching Bruins tape during the intermission? Like, come on, man, who are you fooling? Like, you're telling me it's like, we're getting pumped. Can we get some video of that third shift for the Zaka line there? Can we get that going in the room where everybody's like, I don't know. Like, it is like childish stuff to me, man.
Well, whether he was or not, it just shows the mentality of the team before the playoffs. If that's what he's saying to the media, then what do you think, his mentality was at practice the last week of the season? What do you think his message was before the last 2 games of the season? Obviously, it wasn't beating that drum. Be professional, be ready. This is going to translate to the first game against Boston. This is where you got to set yourself up. You can't just turn on the switch. And, it obviously wasn't that speech. It wasn't that mentality, which a lot of coaches absolutely would have. Everybody's different. Sheldon Keefe chose to go a different route and not put a lot of emphasis on these games. And you know what? If that's the way you go about it, like I said, it means more to them and they know more about that room than anybody else. So, hey, fine. All right. Interesting way to do it. All I'm doing is raising my eyebrows to it and says, let's see how this pans out. I'm not going to criticize or critique it because, again, he knows better than I do, I'm sure. But he leaves himself open to criticism 100%. If they don't start the playoffs the way they're supposed to, the way they should, you could easily look at that and say, well, you set yourself up there. So we will see. Again, I'm reserving my judgment. I'm not being negative. Not the way I would have done it, but we'll see how they come out. And if they come out flying, we will never talk about this again. So we'll see.
I borderline feel bad for Sheldon Keefe, which is difficult for anybody making that much money and doing this type of job. But I really do, because he will be the scapegoat if this doesn't go according to plan. We've already talked about this ad nauseum. They're running it back. For as much as I put out in the LeafsNation.com recent article about Mitch Marner feeling the pressure, he's not feeling the pressure. Somebody's going to pay him. He's got a year left on his contract. He controls his fate with this team. If he wants to resign, hell, they'll probably give him the money. I mean, they've committed back to these guys. So it is solely on Sheldon Keefe. Like, get this team over that hump or you're done. I think it's pretty simple. And I think the proof's been in the pudding in some of his reaction this year. Like, I think this job has been wearing away at him and his responses have gotten snarkier and snarkier. And just some of the things he has said lately, even the distraction comment, like a week ago, was it difficult to be like, we love Austin, he's a phenomenal player, this is an incredible moment? Like, conversely, go look at what John Cooper said about Nikita Kucherov and with that team and that dressing room, the sentiments they were echoing for Kucherov chasing 100 assists. It was just a different feel with Sheldon Keefe and Austin Matthews. But that's where you're going to get into this market. It's maybe idiots like us that promote that, right?
Oh yeah, and you look at John Cooper and what he's able to say. I mean, he could, he could throw up on camera, and there'd be like it wouldn't matter. Like you've got the Tampa Bay media there, and he's the darling of the place, and there's not a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah.
There's the same 6 guys that he's probably buddies with who are writing articles and interviewing him, and they've won Stanley Cups, and he's won Coach of the Year. I'm a big John Cooper fan, so there's being in that market. You throw your flip flops on after you take your skates off and go hit the golf course. It's just different. Where Sheldon Keefe, it's a different world. You're up here in Toronto, the media, the scrutiny, the fan base, and then the lack of wins over the last 50 years. It's completely different. So I don't judge Sheldon Keefe if he gets a little snarky. Like, we only get the sound bites and the clips. I mean, the amount of time he stands in front of these guys and has to answer stupid bloody questions, I would be snarky as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, he went about it and was vocal about it and was honest about it, that he wasn't really putting a lot of stock into the last couple of weeks of the year, and the results showed that. Again, it will come down to how they perform in the first couple of games on whether that was a mistake or not. But maybe it was just a little bit of a calm before the storm. So we will see, and more reason to be pumped and fired up to dissect what happens tomorrow night.
Let's talk some storylines. This segment is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and unbeatable pricing policy. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. So there's a variety of different storylines. Goaltending for me is the biggest one. I think when you look at Samsonov and Wool against Swayman and Allmark, it's night and day. Toronto, the 21st GA in the league, Boston, the 6th. And to me, that's where this series will be won, weirdly enough. I think it's going to be in between the pipes. They need the Sammy that they saw for the majority of the time since his recall on January 10th, or I think they're cooked.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if you look, on paper or whatever, I think they've certainly got the edge in the goaltending department in the last, the last couple weeks, along with the rest of the team. Hasn't been flashy and phenomenal. You don't have the numbers and the results to embed a lot of confidence, but you're just, without a doubt, like you said, I agree, you have to have these guys elevate their game. They just do. If Sammy or Wool has a hiccup or doesn't have confidence or can't find their timing or their game and just feels a little bit off, they're not going to have much of a chance. And it's not to knock any one of them. The goaltending position is so important, especially in the playoffs. And oftentimes teams that go on runs and that win it all, their goaltender comes out of nowhere and just plays an elevated game that's way above expectations, that's keeping them in games, that's shutting the door, that's keeping the lead, that's getting them a chance to get back in games, that shuts the door into overtime, all those different things. I mean, you look at the goalies who have won it, who weren't even the first string goalie throughout the entire regular season. Players come up and athletes rise to the occasion. And that is what we absolutely need out of Sammy and Wool. No question. It is the playoffs. And I don't think that's like a big story break or a big negative thing to say. It goes without saying almost that your goaltenders need to elevate their game in the playoffs in order to have success. That's not a big secret. And I'm sure they know that, and they're looking to be doing it for sure, and know the last body of work and coming into the playoffs wasn't ideal. But at the end of the day, that just doesn't freaking matter. It really doesn't. It's what are you going to do puck drop tomorrow night? Are you going to do X? Or are you going to do Y? And the same thing over there with Allmark and Swayman. I mean, they thought they were going to run through the playoffs of that last year. They were probably thinking about who they're going to face in the finals. They don't get out of the first round. So they've got some demons in their heads too about what's going to happen and what happened last year. And there's lots going on. So again, more reason to be excited.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say is I think if you're the Maple Leafs, you plant that seed of doubt as quickly as you can. I think that's a really astute point to bring up, is what happened last year, right? I know Boston doesn't want to talk about that. We're going to make them talk about it, right? They were up 3-1 in that series. Marchand had the breakaway or whatever, didn't score. The Cats come back. They win that game. They move on. They keep going to go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. There's going to be a bit of apprehension because the majority of that roster for Boston is back. So plant that seed of doubt. You got to get your nose dirty. I think this is a big moment for guys like Bertuzzi and Domi. We've talked about it all season long, why they brought these guys in to be harder to play against in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm not sure if you caught it yesterday. Claude Julien, famous head coach of the Boston Bruins, a free agent right now. But has his, just so dialed into this series. He's like, the Leafs have no shot if they play the perimeter game, essentially. And I think he's so right. You have to get in the dirty areas. And then the other big thing to cover is special teams. Like, discipline's going to be so huge. Brad Marchand's going to be up to his antics in this series. Can the Leafs stay out of the box? What kind of impact can Domi have, Bertuzzi? Like, that type of game is going to be intriguing to monitor, because let's not forget, down the stretch, the last month, special teams was not pretty, man. The last 20 games for the power play, 9 for 64 at 14.1%. The PK, 18 goals against and 70 times short. So, again, it's so cliche to talk about these things. Like, everybody listening and watching knows what needs to happen for the Leafs to win this series. But I mean, the proof is in the pudding with the numbers, too.
Yeah, and again, does that matter? Yes, no, put as much stock into it as you want, but they're going to get the results that they put in tomorrow night. And can their power play get heated up and they score their first 2 opportunities? Absolutely. Can they kill the first 4 penalties against in a series? Absolutely. Anything can happen, but no, they can't dip their toe in the water. They can't feel things out. They can't stick around the perimeter, like Julian says. And our stars in the playoffs have in the past stuck to the perimeter and hoped for chances. And if you're going to do that, the only chances you're going to get are from the perimeter, and you're not going to win any bloody games, let alone series. Playing from out there, you have to penetrate. You have to come at them in waves. You have to have units of 5 working together, just flying over the lines, putting the Bruins on their heels, peppering the goaltender, having bodies in front, banging and crashing, F you after the whistle, playing with some goddamn confidence. If they go and dip their toe in, they'll get smoked. I think they've learned their lesson. I think they have more character than they have in the past. And I think it could be a different story. But again, it's up to them. Nobody knows, but it's in their hands. It's in their control. One thing I want to say is that, like, you bring up last year's playoffs with Florida Boston. Like, everyone talks about the big bad Florida Panthers and how incredibly, suited for the playoffs they are and how they're the favorites to win the Stanley Cup in a lot of people's eyes. Fine. Last year, they're down 3-1. Marchand scores on that breakaway, and they just kind of get cleared out in the first round. No one's even talking about them. The margins are very thin. So things can happen. Very, very big swings can happen. So if the Leafs happen to go down this year, if they go down 2-0 in the game, if they go down 1-0 in the series, like, the sky can't fucking fall from Leafs Nation. I don't even want to go on Twitter if the very first thing that happens isn't a positive thing, because it's just so palpable. You can feel it everywhere, man. It is a reason why it's hard to win in this market. But, like, I implore Leafs Nation to have a little bit of patience and positivity, because wild and crazy things can happen in the playoffs. Lots of ups and lots and downs, and how you deal with adversity very much dictates the outcome of a lot of series. So just have some patience this series. Don't expect them to blow them out tomorrow night and then sweep the series. Like, relax. They're going to win some games. They're going to score some goals. They're going to have goals scored against them. They're going to lose some games this series. Relax, be confident, be positive, and ride with this team is what I implore Leafs Nation to do. Ride with them, be positive. They're your horse. Stay on board with them. Don't bail at the first second of adversity. I fucking hate that, and it's too important this time of year to watch too much of that. So I'm not going to be doing that, and I hope others aren't either.
I always say the Stanley Cup playoffs is like an adversity marathon, where it's like you get punched in the face, but how do you react to that punch? Like, I always like to bring up, we brought this up with Ray Ferraro earlier in the week, that series with Tampa in the first round last year. I think it was game 4. The Leafs were down 4-1 and mounted that insane comeback in the third period. You need more of that, man. You're not going to have it every night. Buildings are going to be rocking. Like, TD Garden's going to be fucking rocking. They love their Bruins there. That team is confident. Boston will bring their best. It's like, can the Leafs be better on paper? I think they can. A lot of things have to go right, but it's no longer a conversation about learning lessons. It's something about going out there and do it. And I think from the Maple Leafs standpoint, it's right in front of them. I think they need signature moments from their big guys, right? This is why you pay Matthews. This is why you pay Nylander. This is why you pay Marner, JT, etc. And you're taking on gamers like David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand. Those are the 2 big boys. Charlie McAvoy on the back end. Like, there's some gamers on that Bees roster, and the game within the game is intriguing to me. The matchup game. I mean, taking nothing away from Pavel Zacha and Charlie Coyle, who are the 1 and 2 seed for Boston. They are not David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron. They're just simply not, and that's no disrespect. The Maple Leafs have to find a way to outplay those guys. Like, it's as simple as that. If you're Austin Matthews, John Tavares, whoever else is playing center for this team, you win that matchup game up the middle, you will win this series. Again, easier said than done because those guys are so qualified. They're so well coached, always in front of the puck. Like, it's, I should say always behind the puck, but to me, it's like, it's so clear what this team needs to do now. It's time to go out and execute, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean the Bruins aren't perfect. I like confidence is such a huge thing. That this group of Maple Leafs, if I was Sheldon Keefe, I would be saying, in your heart of hearts, do you think we are better than this team? Do you think we can beat them? Because we fucking can. They're not perfect. They blew a huge lead in the playoffs last year. They didn't even get to the second round. We did. They limped into the playoffs a little bit as well. They didn't have their best stuff. They gave up the number one spot in the division and did not win the division when at the very, very last end of the down stretch there, they gave that away. They can be fragile. They can lose their confidence. We can put them on their heels. Like, don't doubt yourself. You need to be exuding so much goddamn confidence, chomping at the bit, saying, I can't wait to shove this game right up their goddamn ass and have them reeling for answers. That needs to be your MO. That has to be your mindset. Confidence out the absolute ass. And that stuff is contagious. You have Austin out there just playing like an absolute animal, Willie doing his thing, Bertuzzi and Domi doing their thing, all the secondary guys all the way throughout the line. Fourth line is dumping and crashing and banging and chirping their bench, calling on anybody. Sammy or Wolves standing up big. Our D-men are banging and crashing. Edmondson is a wrecking ball. We're moving the puck up the ice. We're coming at them in waves like, holy fuck, the Boston Bruins are on their heels. That's got to be the MO for tomorrow night, and there's no reason they can't do it. It's just got to come from within with the mindset and the confidence.
You know what I gathered from that whole little spiel? It's like, play as a team, but know what you do best, right? If you watch some of the best teams in the league, it seems like everybody's got a carved out role. And I think watching the Leafs in the last 8 years in the Matthews administration, if you want to call it that, it just seems like the pressure is so palpable that guys are trying to do too much. Like, it's easier said than done. You and I just doing a podcast, like, stay grounded, live in the moment type shit. But it's true. Like, I think there's a way to play as one cohesive unit, but also do your job to your best of abilities. So if you're Ryan Reeves, play your game. If you're Austin Matthews, play your game. It's pretty easy when you break it down that way.
And that's what makes a team. And that's why these GMs build teams the way they do. We need a guy that does this. We need a guy that does that. We need to fill, this side of the game and this aspect of the hockey game to fill in the role on our team. And you got everybody, and they know why they're brought in. They know what makes them good. They know why they're on the NHL. They know why they have their contract. Stick to that shit. And the way the coach will roll the lines, he'll put the style of players and lines out when he thinks it's most necessary. And that's what makes the good team, is everyone just flying wave after wave, doing what they do best. And it starts with the big boys and it funnels all the way down. And if they're all on the same page, you've got yourself a playoff hockey team that's just coming at them in waves, and you don't give them any reprieve to play their game. It's the whole point of playing a playoff hockey game is just winning all those little tiny battles with all your styles of players and covering the whole gamut of the hockey game, being better than them in every department.
You know what keeps popping up on my feed? Brad Marchand bullying Mitch Marner like 2 months ago. Remember that? Just like giving it to him, and Marchand was mic'd up during that game and just giving it to Marner. Every time I see it, I just laugh, man. I just laugh.
Well, you got to be ready for him too. You got to know how to approach him. You got to know how to take him. I would take the fight right to him, try to get him on his heels, and don't even think or worry about what he does. He can do whatever he wants. Just roll your eyes and chuckle at him, and then take it to him even further. Go after their guys. Start the scrums. Make them take penalties. Make him get frustrated because he's like, why is my game not working on these guys? You don't play into his hands. That's for sure.
You definitely don't. Looking forward to the Leafs Nation After Dark tomorrow night with Zack Phillips, who's about to hop on this podcast for Game 1 and the recap to Game 1 between the Leafs and the Bruins. This interview is brought to you by Douglas. Named Canada's best mattress on Canadian living, Douglas is loved by more than 200,000 Canadians, and they're backed by over 10,000 five-star reviews. Every mattress order comes with a free comfort sleep bundle, 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, 1 luxurious cotton sheet set, and 1 mattress protector. Order today at douglas.ca/LMT. That's douglas.ca/LMT as you bring in Zack Phillips. What's going on, buddy? How we feeling? I can't believe we're 1 sleep away from this thing, eh?
I know. I was texting you the other day after, like, once we finished up and we're 1 game away. It feels surreal. We fight all the way through this season. Us as Leafs fans, we don't care necessarily about how the regular season's going to go, because every year now it's just what's going to happen in the playoffs. Well, they're here. And it feels like at this point, like I've kind of just thrown away whatever's happened in 82 games, and I just don't I don't care anymore about what happened. And in my mind, we're going to win the Stanley Cup. So that's all that matters now.
Like it. I like it. It is a reset, man. It does not matter what happened. Ask the Bruins from last year. Does it matter what happens in the playoffs? You would like to have a good playoff run. You would like to win 10 in a row going into the playoffs. But at the end of the day, it's a fresh sheet. Everything goes back to zero. And it's like, all right, here you are. You did what you did to get here. That just, created the seeding on who's playing who. Now go. It's brand new. It's fresh. What do you got? And teams look like different teams in the playoffs sometimes, on the positive and the negative. But again, there's nothing else to really talk about what happened in the past, because it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is what happens tomorrow night.
Yeah. And on top of that, I keep like looking at it like we've said all season long that a lot about this team is built for the playoffs. This team is not an 82 game regular season team. This team is got grit. It's got guys who care. They've got character. They've got attitude. And we kind of had, at least I did, I know, at least for the beginning of the season, be like, hey, well, we're having some of these struggles because we're not for the regular season. And we brought in all these different pieces. It's going to build. We'll get there. And then we saw that stretch where, I mean, I listened to you guys every single day. I talked about it on the post-game show where I'm like, this is it. This is what we're talking about. These are why Tree Living brought these guys here. And we saw that throughout the end of the regular season. And it's like, well, now we're just going to finally find out if that's the case. Like, is this a team that's built for that? I'm genuinely so excited, and at the same time somehow kind of nervous. Like, I'm not playing. I have no impact on the outcome of the game, but I'm just like, wake up, I go to bed, I'm thinking about hearing the goal song, like Jack Edwards' voice, and shipping up to Boston, and I'm like getting shakes a little bit, but then at the same time, I'm like ready to run through a wall. I laid in bed last night watching for about an hour the old NHL This Is the Cup and like History Will Be Made commercials just over and over again. I'm like, I'm not even playing. It doesn't even matter for me.
Yeah, it's
I
like
love it, man.
spine-tingling stuff, but again, there's you're right. Like this market, there's that level of excitement. There's also that level of angst. It's like, man, I can't go through another just crippling loss. Just fucking do something. Win a series, win
Yeah.
2 series, go on a run. It's been like, 25 plus years or whatever. It's 20 plus years since they won, made to a conference final. Got a really good question for you because you're of this vintage. Rosie and I are in our 30s. You're in your mid-20s. What makes these guys tick? Like, that's always my question. Matthews, Nylander. Like, I'm goofing on Nylander a bit for taking the final week or the last 6 weeks off, in my opinion. The guy hasn't scored in 11 games. But, like, Marner, like, what makes guys of that vintage tick? Like, you played good puck. I'm sure you can relate to this a bit.
I don't. These guys, it drives me nuts because this is the one thing that the chat asked me. I've had other people ask me like, what's going on here, and it's a good question because I look around the league and I see these other guys who are around my age. Like I grew up in the same organization as Connor McDavid. He's a year older than me, so I used to watch him. He would practice before me. He would play games before me. Like I got to see this guy as I was growing up playing hockey and see a lot of other players in that, and it was like, the way that he approached the game then, the way that he approaches the game now on a nightly basis, watch Nate McKinnon, the way that he plays, like that guy looks like he wants to go out there and rip people's throats out every single night. And yet he's still one of the, if not the best, like the best player in the league on any given night. And then I watch these guys, and then there's points where they're just happy to be there. It seems like it doesn't have that killer instinct, I think is probably the right way to put it. So as far as what's driving these guys, Nick, honestly, I can't tell you because for me, I'm probably in the same boat as you and Rosie. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to win. I will run through the wall. I will run through you. I don't care what's in front of me. I'm going to do whatever the hell I have to do to win. And that's my mindset. I see it with a lot of other guys my age coming into the league here now. And then that's partially why these people on the Leafs After Dark show who come into the chat are like, why are you losing your mind? Well, sometimes I'm watching them and I'm just watching other stars go out there with that killer mentality, and these guys just feels like it's lacking. So it's a good question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but like I think I'm kind of in the same mentality of like I would kill to win. Like I don't care.
I know it's like, and it has to do with the market. I'm telling you, like, example, Mitch Marner's kind of animosity towards the media or towards the city or something like that, like they've done him wrong or something like that. He just simply wouldn't. You wouldn't see a guy with that attitude playing in Dallas or something. It just wouldn't be, because there's just outside of the rink, it only goes so far. But
Yeah,
in
but
Toronto,
Rosie,
it is just, huh?
not to interrupt, but Mitch Marner's also the guy who threatened to go to Columbus on an offer sheet, right? So if you're going to be that guy, then live up to the smoke. I don't want him to single out that guy every time, but I mean, he has done this to himself too. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not defending him for it.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that he's justified in doing it. I'm saying it is different being in Toronto, and their mindsets are different. They insulate themselves in a certain way. They get their backs up over stuff. It's exhausting having that on your shoulders all the time. And a guy like Mitch Marner to have that attitude in a interview where everyone's like, "What's with that?" It just wouldn't happen in Dallas, is what I'm saying. It would just
yeah,
be different. Same kid, same attitude, same everything. It's just a little bit different. So you have to understand that you have to perform here. I mean, I've been saying it since I started this show. It is different in Toronto. There's more things going on, making it hard to win. Hence why they haven't won a fucking cup since '67. It's difficult, but you have to get over that hump. And being nonchalant about it and acting like you don't care, sure as hell isn't the answer. Not actually caring about it and not showing up, sure as hell isn't the answer. You have to put, your blinders on, and everyone has to link arms and put the fucking hammer down and say, we will go through a wall to win and to bump this trend. And they have to do it tomorrow. And I hope that is their MO tomorrow. I hope that's why they didn't, put the hammer down to finish the season. I hope that's why they kind of limped into the playoffs, is because they're prepping to do exactly that, metaphorically linking arms and just going hammer down tomorrow night, because it's the only way to get over this hump and this bullshit that they've been in for so long.
Well, I just want to say too, I don't want to like continue to pile on the guy, but that's partially why I'm so excited to see Matthews and Domi and Bertuzzi on that line. Rosie, you're talking about linking arms and dragging each other into the fight and saying, fuck you, we're going to run over you. That line is like, there's no one on that line now who can have an excuse of falling behind and not pulling their weight of whatever it is that they bring to the line. Look across the three of them. Whatever your role is there, each one of them is going to be able to do that. You're going to tell me that in any one of these games or periods, Domi or Bertuzzi are just going to say, I'll take this one off. Like, I'm not going to go in and finish that check. I'm not going to go in front of the net and cause a scrum or do something. If Matthews is the guy to do it, then, it's going to be tough sledding there for him and in the media and from the fan base. And I feel like before you'd kind of get away with it a little bit where you'd have Marner beside you, where he would be the guy who, I mean, again, to bring it up, but like he kind of disappears a little bit. He goes Houdini in the playoffs, and then it affects Matthews. But then now you can kind of have the excuse where everyone's pointing at Mitch saying he's the guy who dropped off. And it's like, well, Austin's he's going to have a hard time because his winger dropped off. For sure. That's a fair argument. But now I'm just kind of like, hey, you're going to be exposed a little bit here. Nylander, drive your line on the third line. JT, you've got Mitch back. That's what you wanted. That's who you wanted on your side. No excuse there anymore. Now the first line, Matthews, you got two guys who are just going to go, 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 go. You better get on your horse and you better join them. So like, I kind of feel like we got a little bit of accountability from top to bottom here where it's like, hey boys, there's no excuses anymore. It's all out there.
And I like that because, if they're competitive and say Nylander might have a little chip on his shoulder or something, 1, 2, 3, here's your lines. Whoever's up at the gate, and you're probably going to roll them to start for sure. Throw your leg over that boards, and, you are the leader of your line. You are the big boy on your line. You are, that captain of that line. So go out and like make it almost like a competition on who can have the best shift, who can score the first goal. There's no like looking around going, oh, well, whose fault was this game and who didn't have it going, and did Mitch kind of bring Austin down, or was Austin not really finishing some of those plays? No, you got boys on your line that everyone's clicking. You finally have some chemistry, especially on that top line. I'm super excited about. But let's see who stands out and who takes control and who reins everybody in to dominate your time on the ice. And if everyone's doing that together and has their game and there's no bullshit from the outsides, look out, because they're all really goddamn good players. And if they're at their best, they're going to be damn good.
I almost want to see a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi right away prove that I'm for the boys. If you guys remember that game in November, Marchand, whatever the fuck that was on Liljegren, the lasting image of Tyler Bertuzzi just smiling at his former teammate. Don't want to see that. Do something fucking nasty. Do something dirty. Like, show me. And again, he's done that throughout the season, even in games against Boston. But I think tone setting, like, I know it's cliche to talk about that, but I think it's so vital in a series like this. And the other thing I'll bring up, like the lasting memory for a guy like Marner, and to an extent, I think Nylander's been pretty good in the playoffs. I think Matthews has been pretty good in the playoffs. It's like the perimeter game. Like, that bullshit does not work in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, you look at how the Bruins score goals, you look at some of the upper echelon teams, how they score goals. It's just different. It's harder to score. What are you willing to do to get to those areas to score goals? Like, we can't do that drop pass bullshit between the legs. Like, very seldom, Zach, does that work in a playoff setting where every game and every goal is so important. And for Marner, like, I know that's not his game, but I think he's got to get a bit dirtier. Like, get involved in scrums, get yourself in the action. That's all I'm saying.
No, it's not his game, but when you watch him, and I think this is partially why people are coming to your chat, to my chat, you see it online, I see people tweeting at me about it, is like, the last couple of games, it's felt like, I saw tweets like, oh, well, Mitch was kind of on the perimeter here tonight. Must mean it's April. And it's like, you watch the way that he plays, and it seems like he's a little bit disengaged from those physical battles. And I mean, no one in the world is asking this guy to go into the corner and put someone through the glass. Like, that's not the expectation. But the expectation can at least be, when you've got the puck going down the wall, maybe you're not, hitting breaks and trying to do a little chintzy chip pass past the guy. Maybe every now and then you're saying, this is the playoffs. This is not game 65 in Ottawa on a Saturday night here where, someone might get mad at me, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm not going to take this hit. It's the playoffs. You're paid $10.93 million. You're obviously paid to put up points. No one's asking you to fight. No one's asking you to go out there and kill guys, but maybe take the hit. Maybe skate down the wall and get the zone rather than just getting to the blue line, realizing that Witherspoon or some other mutant on Boston who somehow just decides to put on a Bruins jersey and become these incredible defensemen. But one of those guys is going to come across and hit you. You're going to have to take a hit to make a play. You got to do it every now and then to just get things done. And like, actually, because I don't know, Rosie would be able to speak to it better, but it just gives off the vibe, in my opinion, that like Mitch goes down the wall, the guy comes across to hit him. I'm singling out Mitch. It goes for everybody. So I stand by that for everyone. But you go down the wall, you go to make the play to get in, and rather than taking the hit or rather than continuing to skate and risking getting hit, you chip it in, you turn the puck over. Everyone else is kind of like, that guy makes $11 million and he's not bought in for me. He's not bought in to be here. It just feels like it sends a wrong message where obviously Bertuzzi and Domi and those guys aren't going to just say, fuck it, we're not going to do that. But it kind of just gives a bad vibe of like, oh, maybe these guys aren't as bought in as they need to be. And then it's just like this festering thing where now the media is asking about it. The fans are confused about it. The fans are freaking out. And it's like, now we just got bad vibes going on. Take hits to make plays. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Just engage in the game. It's the playoffs.
Well, it's a mindset. It's a mentality, right? And like you say, if Mitch Marner's streaking down the wing and he's running out of room, he's got a couple options. He can pull up and curl back. He can, hit the brakes and do a little sauce, or he can fucking drive the net, lean his shoulder into that D-man and fucking crash into the net. And maybe you all blow up together and maybe you get a piece of the goalie. Maybe there's a loose puck and so-and-so comes in and bangs it in and you get that gritty goal. You have to have that mentality. And we talked about having everyone's, assets and everyone's strengths, and you got to play to those. But what it looks like, and I've been part of it, where you are just coming at a team wave on wave. Like, you dig that puck out of the corner, you fucking get a hold of it, you pull and you wrap it and you try to stuff it, and three bodies stuff it. Boot, whistle goes. The D-men are there late going, holy shit, how did that happen? Boom, turn your head to the bench, get the hell back to the bench. Other line's already coming out there going, drop the fucking puck. And you just go. And the other team's like, Jesus Christ. And their coach is freaking out going, hey, we have to stop this, blah, blah. And our coach is going, this is what it looks like, boys. Keep it fuck. And it's just like, woo. And you just get momentum and you fucking smoke a team. It's beautiful. And that's what it looks like. And it starts with those plays like you talk about from everybody, whether it's Mitch Marner or whether it's Edmondson or whoever the hell, Ben Wall, whatever you want to talk about. It's a mindset. And I know not everyone plays the same way, but you're all on that same page and you bring that to the table. That's how you fucking win.
Zach, I know you hit the smelling salts. I think just play that clip of Rosie, and I think you'll be good to go
Yeah.
next time that happens. Okay.
I got
No,
shivvy.
I'm gonna listen to that. I gotta
Rosie's
listen
fully
to that.
erect there. That's a wrecked Rosie, man. That's like aubergine Rosie with that, man.
I want to play.
Yeah.
Zach, great stuff. Why don't you tee up the Leafs Nation After Dark coming up tomorrow night? Podcast form now as well here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page at the Leafs Nation 401. Tee it up. What should people expect post game? Hopefully, a Maple Leafs recap of a victory, right?
Well, yeah, let's start there. Hopefully a victory, but going live right after the game, about 5 minutes it starts. I'm trying right now to get it closer and closer to the very end of the game so we can be there right away. I mean, you guys have hopped on. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that, but you're going to see different people from the Leafs Nation, from Leafs Morning Take coming through for the show, 10 to 15 minutes post game. The show usually lasts about an hour in the playoffs, depending on what the chat's doing and depending on what happens in the game. Sometimes it can get a little bit longer, but it's a fan reaction show. That's what it is. We're listening to the chat. We're taking calls from people who want to call in and give us their thoughts, like old talk radio kind of style.
Sweet.
You want to tell me about what you think about what happened in the game. If you think lines should change, if you think Sheldon Keefe's a moron, call in and tell me. Tell me why. We'll break it all down. That's what happens in the post-game show. We give out play of the game. We give out pregame best bets, so we recap those as well. Give out grades of the game, evaluate everything, and then kind of tee up the next game a little bit. That's how the show goes, but I think the easiest way to put it is raw emotion. There's times where I envy you guys because you get a little bit of time to relax and think about what happened before you go to the next day, maybe still be a little bit pissed off, but just take a breather.
Yeah.
I basically go from my couch sitting there being like, fuck this team. Like we're never winning again. We're going to get swept by Boston, to sit down in the chair and start talking to everybody about what just went on and just roll. And we just go right away, break down everything in real time. So that's kind of that's what the show is. It's just raw emotion reacting to the Leafs right after it happens. And
You got a spot
I'm
for me
so
tomorrow
fired up.
night or what?
I do, Rosie.
I'm coming.
Okay, there you have it. Jay Rosehill's guest in the Leafs Nation After Dark tomorrow night. It reminds me of the time when I was at the Fan 590 a couple years back. The Leafs, I don't know if you recall this, lost to the shit-ass Montreal Canadiens where they coughed it up. Surprise, surprise. But I got death threats after that series concluded doing a post-game show. They made us do like 2 hours of phone calls. And some of the mutants that call into Toronto sports radio, man, dickered up. I don't know what's going on. This guy DM me on Facebook to tell me he was going to murder me or like, and all I did was call the Maple Leafs soft. And it's like weird. A couple years later, I've got this different feel to this Maple Leafs team, especially some of the additions.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it. Before we let you go, we do have a request in the chat. You got the smelling salts around you or what?
Yeah, I do. I got them right here.
You got to hit this, buddy. Just a note to the playoffs, a note to the Leafs Nation After Dark. It's been great having you, Zach.
I appreciate it, boys. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Tomorrow after the game, 8 p.m. Also weird, 8 p.m. So start time 10:45. Thanks to everyone. There you go.
Yeehaw. Floss.
Holy
Ammonia in the
smokes, man.
brain, nothing better.
Oh, there you go.
It's funny. Rosie, do you remember that conversation we had last year where like I was like, dude, I bought smelling salts, and you're like, why? And I'm like, I have no clue. And I used to hit it before the gym, and it was actually like better than like an energy drink. So I'm with you, Zach, man. Thank you.
Ammonia in
There
the
you go,
brain,
boys.
boys.
Holy
Nothing
fuck.
gets
Are you
you.
sponsored or what?
No free ads.
Get
No
this
free
guy's
ads.
sponsorship, damn it. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it. See you
The
tomorrow.
one and only Zack Phillips. There you go. The request made in the chat, and he followed through. There's the smelling salts. And yeah, smelling salts is a different hit. Do you ever do it before the game, Rosie?
Yeah, sometimes for sure. Just it's just ammonia, man. It's just a kind of a really
It's sick.
strong sense to kind of waken you up, and it just makes you take a deep breath and kind of snap to it. It gets your eyes kind of bugging and focused. It's just a little wakey, man. So yeah, it's fun to do before I remember doing it. You reach back to the trainer and hit it, and the people behind the glass are just like, what the fuck's going on with these guys? It's awesome.
You know, what Zach said in that interview gives me hope because, again, he's of that vintage. He's of that ilk. He's in his mid-20s. By the way, a lot of people questioning that you were in your 30s in the chat. I didn't want to bring that up. I don't think you look a day over 35. But when I said we're both in our 30s, people were like, Rosie's in his 30s.
He thought I was over 40. That's harsh,
I
boys.
guess so.
We need some filter on this. We need some
Yeah,
filter
we
on
need
this
a mod in this
program.
chat, please. But what I was saying about Zach is the fact that he's of that vintage and he sides with us, where it's like Mitch can play that style, still be successful, and the expectation is not this guy to murder somebody on the ice. It's just play with some edge. We all know he cares. Just play like you care and get in the dirty areas. It's pretty simple. I think he's like my biggest X factor for this series. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a lot of guys, man. I mean, if he wants to not show up, it'll be a storyline. If he wants to take the bull by the horns and be the man of the series, anything is possible. It's up to him, man. So yeah, he could be a huge storyline in this series for one way or another. So could Austin, hell, so could Tavares, so could Willie, so could the goaltenders, so could the decor, so could the coaching staff. Like it takes everyone. Everyone can drop the ball and everyone can be the hero. So a guy like Mitch, it's well within your bounds. I'm sure he's tired of losing. I'm sure he's tired of the scrutiny and the finger pointing. I would expect him to say, I know what's happened in the past and I know what's went wrong and what's went right. And I'm ready to take that experience and turn the page and have a new chapter here in his hockey career. And it starts tomorrow.
I think the motivation has to be, again, the ability to retire Jack Edwards. I would get a big ass picture of this guy, as big of a fucking picture as you can find. And it's like Ted Lasso in the Believe sign. You just have a huge ass picture of Jack Edwards in your room. And that will be the motivation enough to release the demons, any toxins you've had in the past, and just beat the Boston Bruins. Like, I'm not kidding. You think this guy's been a thorn in the side of like just Leafs Nation and the media and the fans? Rest assured, the players know. I think it's hilarious Patrick Maroon's on that team to begin with, but that's more motivation. And we'll laugh about it, but I think the whole thing, the whole narrative about Boston maybe not playing their best at the end of the year to set up a matchup with the Leafs, I would utilize that to my benefit. Like, not that I was Sheldon Keefe or anything, but I think I'd put that in the minds. You know what? They wanted you, so let's fucking bring it to them,
Yeah, man. Again, instill confidence, whatever it is that motivates you. I mean, it's different things for different people. And whatever it is, the coach is going to throw a whole bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks. And at the end of the day, yeah, you have to just put the belief in this room that these guys can get the job done and that they're a better hockey team and that they're capable of going and proving that, and that these guys aren't perfect and these guys aren't the big bad scary team that's impenetrable. You can smoke them, you can beat them, you can win games, you can get them on their heels. They have dropped the ball before, they have blown series before. It can be you can do it. You just got to instill confidence in everybody. I mean, confidence with sports is absolutely paramount to performance. So I would be just pumping that shit into that locker room right now. So these guys are just on cloud nine, ready to dominate, full of confidence in themselves and what they're capable of doing.
It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today. Use promo code TLN bonus. That's TLN bonus uppercase, and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Any bets you like to start game one? I think I'm looking at a Nylander anytime goal, man. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the one thing I do recall year in and year out, betting wise, game one, I usually take a goal from either Mitch Marner or Willie Nylander. So I might play that again.
I don't mind that. For some reason, I had no reason and any stats or any numbers in front of me. I just feel like the over could play. I think
5.5's the number, man. I like that too.
Yeah, take the over in that. I think it's going to be wide open. I think both teams are going to be trying to unload the tank and dump everything they have, and the goaltending will be what it'll be. But I think that it's going to be a high scoring affair. They're going to go back and forth on it, and I'm expecting a really good game, not like a defensive trap it up, feel each other out. I'm expecting everyone to go try to send a message on both sides, and it's just a recipe for a bunch of goals.
Zach Phillips has recovered from the smelling salts to write in the chat. Nylander anytime plus 175 or better is a banger. I couldn't agree more. My curiosity is like the over-under total, I think, for every series, at least the 6 that were put out before the final 2 were cemented last night. Like, they took a puck off. Like, we went from 6.5 to 5.5, which I think is outrageous for the Florida Tampa series. I'm hammering that over 5.5 in game one. Ditto for the Leafs and Bruins. I could see a high-scoring game here in Game 1 where it's like a feel-out process. I think you lose sight of the fact that it's a 7-game series. There's going to be adjustments and tinkering, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's just a chaotic Game 1 across the board around the league.
Yeah, I know. I don't really, I don't know. I'm sure the stats or some bullshit would say otherwise traditionally in the playoffs, whatever, but I could see them. Yeah, I don't see a lot of feeling outgoing. I think everyone's extra jazzed to be in this playoff. I think there's a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement around all these different series in the league and a lot of good teams that think they have a chance. And I think everyone's jazzed up and going to put the hammer down, drop of the puck. It'll be a really good first night.
Very Jack for it again. So Zach Phillips is our guest today. Make sure to check out the Leafs Nation After Dark. As Zach mentioned, about 5 minutes after the final buzzer or whatever, if it goes to OT, the final goal. Make sure to check that out. Rosie has volunteered himself to guest on that show coming up tomorrow night. So can't wait to get your response and your reaction. And away we go, Rosie. One more sleep and then the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Again, it feels like just yesterday, I think we did our first show of season number 2 and Chris Pronger was promoting his fucking whiskey. And here we are. Here we are at the conclusion of this thing, starting it for real here.
Yeah, put it that way. It doesn't seem that long ago we were looking at, Cowan and some of the young kids making a dent in training camp, and that was the story. It doesn't seem like that long ago. It went by fast, but it was a long journey. But thank God it's over. One more sleep. I'm very excited for tomorrow night.
At the Leafs Nation 401, where you can subscribe, hit that like button as well. Leafs One and Take wherever you find your podcasts. TheLeafsNation.com has you covered throughout the season, including the Stanley Cup playoffs. Thank you to Zach Phillips for dropping by Bet365 with us now, which is just phenomenal stuff. I want to remind you all, as well as we talked about a couple times here on the podcast, we're doing a pregame show tomorrow, Rosie and I. So a quick 30 minutes at 7 Eastern time tomorrow. So make sure you mark that on your calendars. Make sure to join us. Same format, same sort of breakdown as we do on a daily basis here at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure you head on over to our YouTube page. That's going to be just for YouTube tomorrow. So at the Leafs Nation 401, 7 Eastern time, Rosie, I, and producer Vic are going to get together to preview Game 1 and just talk about our feels and emotions leading up to puck drop from Boston. With that in mind, we're going to bid you farewell. Thank you to producer Vic. Thank you to Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. And I mentioned off the top, we had a gift for you. How about a Maple Leafs hype video? This courtesy of editor extraordinaire Clifford Baines. Enjoy.
What would you give up to see a Leafs Stanley Cup?
Oh boy, that's a big one. It's hard to describe, but practically everything, to be honest.
It's a different team, and I kind of like where they're trending right now and how they're playing. I think I'd be hopeful if I'm them.
The legend will be back. Moments you're remembered for.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at TheLeafsNation.com. Thanks so much for watching.